Two things I love: TV shows and sports. So when I saw that Winning Time was coming out, combining my two favorite things, I was ecstatic. And let me tell you, just from the first episode, I'm hooked. HBO Max is Winning Time. So what this is about, this is the rise of the Lakers dynasty when Dr. Jerry Buss bought the franchise and drafted Earvin Magic Johnson. Now, I grew up in a very pro NBA household, and if my dad had his own YouTube channel, he'd probably call it Bragging About Basketball. And so, for a little context, I was just born around the time this show is set. And when I really started getting into basketball, the Lakers and Celtics dynasties were on their way out. But I have heard and read stories about the wild things that the Lakers did when they were Showtime. And they really kicked off the making the NBA popular, because if you watch the show, you'll find out NBA was going downhill. Now, some think it's going downhill now. I disagree, and that's another video for another day. So we're going to focus on the Lakers and this show. As a fan, I'm really watching this for a show content, see if it's a show I like, but I'm also picking it apart, the details of the basketball history, because I love NBA. First thing I noticed was Jerry West. I've always thought he was the nicest guy in the world. So far on the show, he's one of the biggest jerks there is. And according to the show, he did not want to draft Magic Johnson. Now, their points were good, a 6'9" point guard who wasn't the best shooter, and it wasn't as quick as some of the other guards. So that made sense. So that's the first thing I really wanted to check and see if, is that true? So there was debauchery from the very beginning, the very first scene. Now, my son really wanted to watch it, and knowing what I know about Lakers history, I didn't think he should. And then within the first scene, I was validated. So there is a lot of nudity. I do not recommend this for your little NBA kids who want to just see the great Showtime dynasty. So the other thing that really stood out is Magic Johnson doubting himself. My whole life, Magic Johnson's been the big smiling guy who brims confidence. He bought Starbucks. He was triumphant in 5 NBA titles. And to see him second guess himself before joining the league was another piece of history that I'll have to research. It does say before the show that this is entertainment, and they do embellish with a lot of the details. So if you're looking for just an accurate documentary, it's definitely not that. There is entertainment here. The first episode is really focuses on Jerry Buss trying to get the Lakers. He had to sell some of his properties and really do some wheeling and dealing just to get them. The NBA was falling apart, and he was just a huge basketball fan. And his first part of that building was the Magic Johnson. So to get him on the Lakers, he, of course, took him around Hollywood, took him to bars, and tried to really get him hooked on the idea. And at this time, Magic is a kid from Michigan who's not used to all this hoopla. The way the show is shot, you will think you're watching an 80s television set. It does not have the crisp, clear images, and it makes it feel a little more authentic, like you're actually watching the 80s unfold. In addition to Jerry West, we also get to see Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, even an appearance of the worst owner of all time, Donald Sterling from the Clippers. This is actually before he even owned a franchise. And there's a few other NBA stars that pop up. There's a quick reference to Larry Bird, and I'm assuming he's going to be a big part of the show as it unfolds, because he was their biggest rival. The real determining factor, if this is going to be a show that everybody's going to love, is the lead actor, Quincy, who's playing Magic Johnson. Magic has that bigger-than-life personality, and we didn't see it in the first episode, but I thought he did a great job of showing a more vulnerable side of Magic. Now, as the show unfolds, I'm hoping to see that charismatic character that I always saw when I watched the NBA growing up. Now, the question you're probably asking, I don't if I don't like the NBA, am I going to like this show? That's a valid question. My wife watched it with me. She is not an NBA fan. She did chuckle a few times, and she said she's going to watch the next episode with me. I don't think she thoroughly enjoyed it like I did. If you are an NBA super fan, and especially old Lakers, I think you will enjoy it. It is a very mature subject matter, so this, if you're looking for good, clean fun, this might not be the show for you. But I would say it's a funny on par with some of Adam McKay's other stuff. John C. Reilly is always great, and he does a good job of playing that cocky owner, that kind of almost like a gunslinger, kind of doing it his own way, doing what he wants to do. And as the show unfolds, I hope it really shows how he really brought the NBA to another level. Now, I'm going to give this show, I'm going to give it an A. I'm going to give it the Gamut paw of approval because he loves basketball. I'm definitely going to keep watching. I'm curious to know what you thought. Were you turned off by some of the graphic content? Or is that exactly how you imagined the Showtime Lakers way back in the 80s? Because the 80s were a pretty wild time, as I've been told. Also, if you haven't yet, hit that subscribe button. Give me a thumbs up or give me a thumbs down if you'd like. But I'd really love to talk basketball. I'd love to talk about this show. Maybe my dad will go out and he'll start his YouTube channel bragging about basketball. I don't know. We'll see. But I think I'm going to try to come back next week and talk about episode 2 because there was just so much basketball stuff to talk about. What about Jerry West? Was he really the angry guy that was that upset over losing all those times to the Celtics? We haven't seen Pat Riley yet. That's going to be a big player for this show because he was always a larger-than-life coach when I first started watching basketball. And, of course, Larry Bird. Will he be the dominant rival of the show? These are all questions we need answered. So you better make sure to hit that notification button so when episode 2 comes out next week, we can talk about that again. Because when you watch my videos, you will find something to brag about.